All right, hi guys. Welcome to another Flip Classroom. I know it's usually a Tuesday or Thursday, but we're going to do it on a Friday. We kind of discussed the expectations for this, and you know by now what you need. So make sure you have a pencil, your math book, and headphones. Make sure that you're hearing this, not everybody. Okay? Today we're working on the more metric units. We're working on, as you can see down here at the bottom, we can work on all these kilometers, hectometers, decameters, milliliters, grams, decimeters, centimeters, and milliliters. We're working on all the different versions. And we are going to use this diagram down here at the bottom pretty much all day. So again, if I'm you, kind of like yesterday, you might mark this page. This chart right here, as you're going to learn here in a minute, is really beneficial. You're going to need this to help yourself solve many of these units. Because again, I'm not going to ask you to memorize these things. So if you have this chart bookmarked, you're golden. Okay? So again, you know the routine here. I'm going to read, you're going to underline, box, and circle. Here we go. Using a map, Alex estimates the distance between his house and his grandparents' house to be about 15,000 meters. About how many kilometers away from his grandparents' house does Alex live? The metric system is based on place value. Each unit is related to the next largest or the next smallest by a unit by a power of 10. Guys, that's just like place value. We should be used to this. So each hop is a value of times 10 or a power of 10. Okay? So we need today to convert 15,000 meters to kilometers. So we got to go from our yellow box here, and we need to hop 1, 2, 3 hops to kilometers. Okay? And we're going to show you what that means. So we're scrolling down. Step 1, find the relationship between the units. So meters here are blank powers of 10 smaller than kilometers. So let's count. 1, 2, 3. They are 3 powers of 10 smaller than kilometers. Plug that in. There are blank meters in a kilometer. So 10, remember this isn't 3 times 10. These are powers of 10. So 10, 10, and 10. So 10 times 10 times 10. A 1 with 1, 2, 3 zeros. That's 1,000. So we have 3 powers of 10, and 10 to the third power is, I'm going to write it over here, I don't have the room, 10,000. Okay, or not 10,000, I'm sorry, 1,000. Guys, remember like a 1 with 3 zeros, right? You guys remember that rule? Okay, so now step 2 says determine the operation to be used. So I am converting from a what kind of unit? Smaller or larger? We know that we are going from meters to kilometers, so that it is smaller. That's an S. Let me erase that. Smaller unit to a larger unit. And if you look on the board, the rule still applies. If we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, we are dividing. I hope you said that. Okay, we are dividing. So here's how it's going to look. Okay, so we'll erase that. Come on down to converting. All right, so we're going to take our 15,000 meters here in the yellow, divided by what? What did we decide on? 1,000 kilometers, right? 10 to the third power. So 15 divided by 15,000 divided by 1,000. What's 15 divided by 1? So take away your 3 zeros, boom, 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 and your 3 zeros there, boom, boom, boom. 15 divided by 1 is 15. So it should look like this. And notice how nice that is. Here's your division. And then you've got 1,000 here. And if you crossed out all your zeros and you crossed out all your zeros, 15 divided by 1 is 15. So Alex needs 15. That guy is going to be, that chart is going to be your best friend. I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, so when you use these problems, and anytime you're talking about the metric system, kilometers, hectometers, decameters, milliliters, grams, decimeters, centimeters, and milliliters, you need to use this. Come on back. Use this thing, and then hop. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 all the way. If you have to go all the way, it's 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 power. You can do that. That's a 1 with 6 zeros. And then do the math. Go back to our rules. If we're going smaller to larger, we're dividing. If we're going larger to smaller, we're multiplying. Okay? Follow our rules and you'll be good. Okay? All right. So there's that way. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different, something you're not used to. We're going to skip the other way. We're going to go all the way to here. We're going all the way to page 614. And we're going to do the math on the spot. We really haven't done math on the spot this week, or heck, ever. So we're going to take a chance today, and we're going to watch the video. I think he does a really nice job of explaining this problem. And then we're going to work 16, and then you're going to get some time to work on your own. All right, so let's dive into our little video today. Feel free to pause, rewind, make sure you're following along, and then when you're done, as he's going along, down here in the corner, show your work, where it says, show your work. Come on down here and follow along by showing your work, okay? That way you can use this as a resource. If I come back on Monday and everyone's showing their work, heck, I might let you use this on the test, okay? So, let's go.
You know, the only thing more nutritious than juice is mathematical thinking. And in fact, this juice container reminds me of a great math riddle about Kelly that I think you and I should think about together. What do you think? I thought you'd agree. All right, let's check it out together and see if we can have some fun camping. Now, Kelly plans to take juice on her camping trip. Which will hold more juice? 12 cans or 3 bottles? And how much more? Well, we don't have enough information until we really study this particular table that tells us how much 1 can of juice actually will hold and how many a bottle of juice holds. So we see that a can of juice holds 150 milliliters and a bottle of juice holds 2 liters. So notice that we actually have 2 different units of measurement. They're both metric, by the way, but this is milliliters versus liters. So since the units actually are not comparable, we just can't compare those amounts right out of the bat. What we have to do is we have to figure out how much we'd have if we took 12 cans, how much juice we'd have if we take 3 bottles, and then we'd have to actually make those units the same. We have to convert them actually to same units, and then we can really compare unit to unit. So, okay, so let's start off. 12 cans rather. So 12 cans, and each can holds 150 milliliters. So if I want to know how many milliliters 12 cans will actually hold, that's going to be a multiplication. I'm going to take 12, and I'm going to multiply it by 150 milliliters. And that will give me the total number of milliliters that we will have in 12 cans of juice. And that works out, if you multiply that out, I've done this in advance, 1,800 milliliters. Great. Now, what about if we have 3 bottles? Well, each bottle is actually 2 liters, so that's going to be really easy. So I'm going to say we've got 3 times 2 liters, and that's easy to figure out. That's just 6 liters. So a great mistake is to say, well, 1,800 is a lot bigger than 6, so therefore we must be getting more juice in the 12 cans than we are in the 3 bottles. Sounds right, but don't forget the units. The units are different. Turns out liters are a lot bigger than milliliters. So we have to convert actually liters to milliliters to really compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges, or in this case, milliliters to liters. So how do we do that? Well, you know how the metric system works and in terms of what those different words mean. So kilo is the biggest thing you've got, and so if you want to convert from kilos to hecto something, you just multiply the kilos by 10, and that gives you hectos, and if you want to go to deca, then you multiply by 10 again, and so forth. If you're at, for example, liters, then if you multiply by 10, that gives you deciliters, and if you multiply by 10 again, you get centiliters, and if you multiply by 10 again, you get milliliters. So to go from liters to milliliters, we have to multiply by 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. So what that tells me is that 1 liter is actually equal to 1,000 milliliters. So milliliters are so small that it takes 1,000 of them just to make up 1 liter. And we see that from this conversion table. By the way, if you want to convert backwards, then you have to be dividing by 10 each time to kind of work your way back up. But that's not what we're going to do here now. So if we have 6 liters and we want to know how many milliliters it is, well, if 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters, then 6 liters, I just multiply that by 6. So I multiply this by 6, and I'd see 6,000 milliliters. And so what I see is that this equals 6,000 milliliters. So these two are actually the same thing. Even though 6 seems so small, it's 6 of a very large unit is actually equal to 6,000 of a very small unit. And so really these are the same thing once we make the conversion using this conversion chart or this conversion fact. Well, now we have milliliters to milliliters, so we can compare, and now our story really changes because we see 6,000 milliliters is a lot larger than 1,800 milliliters. And so what we see is that 6,000 milliliters is greater than 1,800 milliliters. And by how much? Well, that's a little subtraction. And I guess we can perform that little subtraction anywhere we want. I'll just put it right up here because it's just a little teeny subtraction. It's just going to be 6,000, and I'm going to subtract off 1,800 to see how much larger. And when we subtract, we see 4,200. And the units, of course, again, are milliliters. Everything is milliliters. Everything now is milliliters. That's the beauty of it. And so we see that the 3 bottles actually hold a lot more juice than the 12 cans. They hold 4,200 milliliters more juice. And how do we do that? Well, we first figured out how much juice is held in the 12 cans, how much juice is held in the 3 bottles, and then we got 2 different types of metric units, so we converted them to the same type of metric unit, and then we can compare those and see the difference and get the answer. Well, being able to convert from one type of unit to another, in this case metric, is a really important skill. And with metric units, it's really easy because you're either going to be multiplying by a bunch of tens or you're going to be dividing by a bunch of tens. Either way, it's not that bad because multiplying and dividing by 10 is not that big of a deal. That's why the metric system is such a nice system because it allows us to quickly convert from one unit to another. Have fun converting the units in your life, and I'll see you soon.
All right. So there we are. That's a great way to see how to use that conversion table to your benefit. He did the exact same thing we did. He showed the hops, and he even went 10 times 10 times 10. We did powers, which I feel is a little bit easier for us. We know that trick from back to like unit 1. So here's what you're going to do today. You're going to go back, and you're going to work on try this A and try this B. It's going to want you to convert things back and forth from milligrams to centigrams and milligrams to decagrams and milligrams to grams. You are going to need this chart. You're going to have to flip back and forth and show your hops. You're also going to have to tell us how many, whether we're multiplying here or we're dividing here, okay? And then we need an answer, all right? So we want to go from that to divide or multiply by 10 equals what? That multiplied or divided by 100 equals this. Okay, so this is going to help you out. All right, this is going to help you kind of get an idea of what you're doing. Then you need to raise your hand. The sub will come by and check your work. Make sure you're kind of understanding this. Okay, and then to get some extra practice in, you're coming over here to page 613, and you're going to need to complete questions 1 through 11. I did you a favor. I don't want to hear any complaining. You don't have to do 12 and 13. Okay. So 1 through 11. As you finish that, okay, then when you're done with that, you need to go and you can start your Think Central. Keep in mind, don't forget, end of the day, homework is due. Not the end of the day, the end of the class period, your sub will collect the homework, and that's that. Make sure you're doing this. So make sure you understand this. We'll touch on base on this on Monday, but make sure you're using that conversion chart, okay? Because that'll tell you whether to multiply or divide, because if you're getting bigger to smaller, you're multiplying. If you're going smaller to larger, you're dividing, and then your conversion chart will tell you by how much. Okay? Remember, rewind, pause, do this as many times as you need to. This is for your learning experience. If you're still very, very confused, please raise your hand, and the sub can help you in the middle table. Okay? Good luck, and I'll see you Monday.